Okay, call to order the special city council meeting on Monday, January 25th at 4 p.m. Roll call.
Tom Marzlek, Sam Solars,
Kirby Moyna.
Nicole Andrioff.
Wayne McCormick.
Jared Vogie.
Deb Belter.
Jessica Bonniwell.
Okay, we need an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the approval of the agenda? Tom?
No.
How do you vote?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Nicole?
Aye.
Just for clarification, Kirby, are we back to the, instead of all of us voting at the same time?
Yeah, until we get clarification
Okay.
on the
All right,
roll call and whatnot.
good
So,
to know, in case I have to fill in for you.
on to business. Letter A is city engineer.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Council. A couple items for your consideration this evening. The first one in your packet is related to the 2020 pavement improvements project. If you recall, and for new council members' benefit, we received bids on the 2020 improvement project. They came in very favorably, and the discussion regarding the City Hall parking lot came up. We obtained a quote from the contractor who is actually doing the project, Knife River. They provided us pricing to do that parking lot in the amount of $78,000. We reviewed that, did some of our own calculations based on quantities and unit prices that we've seen on other projects. Definitely a favorable quote, and I did speak with the contractor today actually just to verify that they're still honoring the price, and he said absolutely. So ultimately that's what's before you, and this first item is redoing the parking lot. Now, when I say redoing it, it's not simply just milling the pavement and putting pavement over the top of it. Because of the drainage issues out there, what the project consists of is actually removing the pavement, reshaping some of that gravel, adding gravel where needed so that it drains properly so we don't have the same issues a few years down the road. So the question before you this evening is if council is in agreement of moving forward with that, we'll simply add that by change order to the contract, and ultimately that change order will come back to you along with a pay estimate, and it'll need your approval at that point. So I'll pause on this item and see if you have any questions.
Any questions for Jared? Nope. Then I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the 2020 pavement improvements project for the city parking lot to be added.
I'll second.
Tom?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Nicole?
Aye.
Passes 4-0.
All right. Second item this evening is regarding some water testing items. The memo pretty much outlines everything there. As you may know, each year consumer confidence reports are required to be submitted. Typically that's published in the paper and distributed to all the residents, posted on the city's website. Outlines some of the items that occur within water systems, such as lead, copper, fluoride, things of that nature. Some other testing that's been done recently is more of a health-based value, and so the ones that you see in the CCR are typically maximum contaminant levels, so you test for them to make sure that the levels in the water don't exceed certain thresholds. The manganese testing that has been done is more of a health-based value. So it's not essentially as stringent, if you will, as those other things that might occur in water, but nonetheless do have some thresholds that the Department of Health likes to stay under. The table in the memo this evening outlines the levels taken in July and August. The health-based value maximum or recommendation, if you will, is 100 micrograms per liter, and you can see that the test results taken there are higher than that. So ultimately, you know, one of the questions that might come up is, where's manganese come from? Well, it exists in the soils and the rocks, and depending on where you're at in the state, some levels of manganese are higher in other areas of the state than they are in others. So the manganese levels in this area definitely, as you can see, are elevated, right? Manganese contributes to some black staining in your toilet fixture, your sink fixtures, stuff like that. It's that black stuff that sometimes you can tend to see within a water system. And it's ultimately because it's coming from the rocks and soil that are pumped out of the ground. So the Department of Health recommends that the city take action to reduce exposure to manganese, and then also inform the customers that the manganese levels are elevated. So as we talked about this as staff, I think ultimately one of the first questions we anticipate, you know, when consumers or the customers are informed of it is, well, what's your plan, right? And so as we discussed it at staff meeting, we think the appropriate approach would be to prepare a report to identify some options about how we move forward, and ultimately for the purpose of being able to communicate that to the residents and put a plan in place to meet the requirement of developing that plan as suggested by the Department of Health. So with that, I'll pause and answer any questions regarding the manganese.
Gary, do you know what the typical forms of mitigation are for that?
There are some solutions. One of them, well, the most expensive solution is treatment. We see some communities with high iron levels and manganese levels that treatment is the best option for that. There are some other things that we could look at. You know, one of the things that we've done successfully in other locations is done some well blending, but as you can see from the numbers here,
They're pretty close.
they're all pretty close, and none of them are below that 100 micrograms per liter. So the most common is treatment, but I think at this point we'd want to explore other options because, as I mentioned, that's an expensive option for the community.
Is that like putting an additive in at some point?
You know, the
treatment?
interesting thing about manganese is it's within the water, right? So if you add something to the water, it's not necessarily going to remove it. So when I say treatment, I'm more talking about filtration.
Filtration.
Yeah. So you get the manganese, the coalesce with whatever else might be in there, for example, iron, and then run it through a filter system. And then what comes out, the manganese gets trapped in the filter, and then the fresh water comes out.
Now I know why you said it was expensive.
Yeah.
That's what I was driving to, so.
Oh, yep.
When you said it's done annually, so do we have like a history of this report over the last several years? Like, has it been building up over the last few years, or is this just something that has been caught now and was missed by previous engineers? Or
So
MDH?
for the information in the Consumer Confidence Report, that's definitely annually. We have those results. But from a manganese standpoint, do you recall, Wayne?
It's been that way for quite a while. I mean,
Okay.
we've been high. And they said the EPA changed their standards, they're dropping them.
The
That's why,
threshold.
So it's not a health hazard,
it is to a certain extent, isn't
is
it?
it?
Yeah, so elevated levels, they definitely are not in favor of long-term exposure to, I think they refer to it as vulnerable populations. So, yeah, it was the levels are elevated enough that it raised the eyebrows of the Department of Health and said, hey, we need to figure out what we're gonna do to reduce these levels.
Yeah, whatever the best way to do it, most cost-effective way to get it down. So, yeah, I mean, it looks pretty high just if you look at the numbers. So, I mean, I'm no health expert, but.
Right, yeah, and that's why, as staff, we discussed it would be good to have a plan in place to be able to communicate that, to the residents, so.
And does it affect all residents, or is it just ones that don't have like water softeners or any of that stuff, or is it everybody is?
It's basically anybody that's utilizing their water without a filtration system on their faucets, and utilizing tap water, the city's water system. So if you have bottled water and you're cooking with it and you're drinking it, it doesn't apply to you. If you have a good filter system that's able to remove that, it doesn't apply to you. But if for those that don't, they're strictly relying on the city's system as a source, it would apply to them.
Is that like a reverse osmosis system or?
There's multiple
Okay.
systems that can do that. RO is one of them, for sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. So, yep.
All
And
right.
what other, besides the treatments and the well mixing, what other things can happen?
Yeah, ultimately, that's what we need to really take a close look at as part of the report. You know, other solutions, I've seen some communities do citywide filter distribution, but that can be an interesting animal too. But we'll definitely put together some options for council to review and have a plan moving forward.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion to authorize the preparation of a report to identify steps for manganese reduction within the city's water system. I'll second.
Any further discussion? Tom?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Nicole?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, the third item is regarding the regional park. For a couple years, there has been an application that's been submitted to the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources for Regional Parks Grant. And the shelter building at the regional park was one that has previously been submitted and still qualifies according to the existing grant material. The grant is a maximum of $250,000 and requires a 50% match. The total amount available for these grants statewide is $850,000. So it's going to be very competitive, is what we're anticipating. That deadline is actually March 31st, and that would allow the funds then would become available for construction in 2022. So it's not get the grant awarded in 2021 and you have to expend the funds by the end of the year or anything like that. They're definitely available in 2022. So what I did is we've attached some concepts very similar to those that you've probably seen before. The only difference being on the site, or the floor plan rather, there used to be an area that was identified as a warming house, and that's currently identified as a kitchen on that second sheet, third sheet, sorry, with the floor plan. And the reason for that modification is, as staff, we discussed changing that because of some of the improvements at Northridge. Yeah, there it is. Thank you. So that's what's being suggested there. A couple other things that came up was in that shelter area, having the ability to close one or more sides off, so that in the times of the year when the weather is kind of chilly and there's a wind that's cold, that could be shut more enjoyable use by whoever happens to be using it or renting it at the time. So ultimately, those are the changes that have been discussed since the last application was submitted. And ultimately, we wanted to bring this to council for an opportunity to determine whether or not that's something that Grant, if you'd like to proceed with making an application at least. It'd be pretty minimal. We'll update some of the text to accommodate those minor changes that we've discussed and some cost estimate updating and stuff like that. But from a level of effort standpoint, it wouldn't be overly significant. So there is a resolution that's required by the grant process in your packets this evening, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
So this is just through the DNR, it's not like through the state legislature or anything like that? It's just
Correct.
submitted to the DNR and then they review it and,
Yep.
And just so Councilmember Solaris know and Councilmember Andrioff, we did meet in 2019 with the Park and Rec Commission, and we identified projects that we wanted to make a priority, and this was at the top, getting this shelter built so that we get people out to the park and we make some use of the regional park and we have some income from it. We have been levying money each year since then to put towards the matching of the grant or the building of it. Because if we wouldn't get the grant and we just eventually decide we want to build it, we have been saving up for that.
This is the same grant that we applied for last year? Did we apply for this one?
We did try last year.
Okay.
And I did contact, I told both Jared and Justin that I did contact the woman in charge of the grant. I'm sorry, I'm going to sneeze. Sorry. Thank you. And asked her if there was anything that we could do different with our grant, to make us more competitive. And she said, no, it's just a very competitive grant. A lot of people apply for it. And I got a lot of these in the city of Delano. I work for the city of Delano, and it took a couple of years of applying before we got them. So I think it's important to keep applying every year and keep getting your name out there.
do you know how many people apply for it every year by chance? Just
I
a
don't.
ballpark? Couple hundred?
Boy, I don't remember. I'm sure that's something we could find out.
I was just curious. I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2021-06. 2021-06.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Nicole?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Sam?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, the next item on the agenda this evening is related to the 2021 Downtown Improvement Project. As a result of the passing of the 2020 bonding bill, there is a program that's referred to as the Local Road Improvement Program. That program was allocated, if you will, $75 million through that bonding bill. The solicitations for that are currently out, and the application deadline is March 3rd for that. So we looked at the 2021 Downtown Improvement Project to see what funding sources could potentially be available for that project, and this is one that stood out to us. The maximum grant amount for this program is $1.25 million. So it certainly would not pay for all the street costs associated with the project, but it would definitely help with the bonding and the financing sources that are associated with it. So we wanted to make sure that we brought this to council's attention and engage your interest as to whether or not this is something that you'd like us to pursue. I have enclosed a resolution for your consideration this evening, and we wanted to make sure that this potential funding opportunity was brought to your attention. So,
Do you know by chance what committee within the Minnesota legislature reviews these?
MnDOT.
Just MnDOT? It's not like the Transportation Committee or anything like that?
The solicitation came out from MnDOT, so I'm not sure to your point, I'm not sure if MinDOT reviews all of them and then sends it to a separate committee or how that works exactly. But the criteria, associated with it is it can't be used on MinDOT roads. It needs to be, needs to have some regional significance. And one of the reasons that we identified this project for it, ultimately this is referred to as the downtown, the community center, the post office, things of that nature. So there are multiple local trips that occur in this project area, so that's why we identified that.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it was a legislature thing or not, just seeing if we could get a couple of our local legislatures to kind of lobby in our favor of
Right.
trying to get this if it was a legislative type of thing, so.
And I just want to bring to everybody's attention that this is why we love Bolton and Make, because they brought this to us. They do this on several different things. They bring certain reports to our attention or bring grants to our attention, and then they do the legwork on them. So staff, all of us I know are extremely grateful for that, so thank you, Jared.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2021-07, supporting pursuit of the 2020 local road improvement program funding from MinDOT.
Second.
Any further discussion? Tom?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
All vote yes. Sam?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
This is gonna be kind of hefty, right? So do you want to stop for
we can
just
pause.
a second and go get pizza and cookies and pop? Everybody? Okay?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
We need a motion to pause the meeting?
No,
or we just?
nope, you guys could just go up there.
Wait, no, I lost
Don't
my
all run at once.
Then all hurry up there at the same time.
We've got one taco, one sausage, and one pepperoni.
Gosh, guys, make me be the first
Ladies
one.
first.
Wade and Jared, if you want any, go ahead.
Don't be a weirdo about this.
I don't eat
You
carbs
judge
during the week.
me.
So,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, with working the overnights, I try to stay away from that as much as possible.
Okay.
So.
Go ahead, Deb.
I'm good, because I have to do some talking, so.
I guess I can fit
Woohoo.
Juliano in on top of that.
It's choosing. No, don't judge me.
No problem. It was good to see the sun today.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Beautiful day,
Yeah, I
actually.
was surprised that,
Yesterday was really nice out too, and it wasn't so cold.
and there was not as much wind.
And it was beautiful after the snow. Everything sparkled.
Echo.
The wind was brutal yesterday. It was not pleasant.
Oh, really? Yesterday or today?
Yesterday, the wind.
See, I didn't notice it nearly as much as today.
Oh, I mean, it's my yesterday basically.
Oh,
I mean, when I get done
okay.
in the morning,
Okay.
so it feels like yesterday, but it was really Monday morning. But I mean, yeah, it was pretty bitter. So
I agree.
You don't know,
Gotcha.
it gets real serious.
Yeah.
sometimes my days get mixed up. 'Cause it's,
Have you always worked overnights?
Yeah.
no, I switched back in March, actually right before all this stuff happened. So
Oh.
it was like a perfect time to switch, and it was
I'm
just.
gonna take them home and put it in the
Then it was like
fridge after
the
we're done.
no interactions with people at work and all that stuff. So
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
All yours.
I always
They have the best taco
Everybody-
pizza.
admired people that can do
Love
that because I
No, stuff it in your pocket.
I don't know how you do it.
Let's see what do we got here.
some people they handle it differently, where they either sleep, like they go home and they wait till the afternoon and they just sleep all day, or
Okay.
like, I mean, me personally, I mean, I'll go home, sleep for 3, 4, 5 hours, and then take a 2-hour nap before I go in at night.
And do a very good
Okay.
job of cutting.
Got it.
I've
Hey,
never
Dylan.
been one of those 7, 8 hour at a time sleepers. So
Okay.
I had to learn the hard way with a family of police officers.
I'll
With
take the
Todd,
two of them
when
and
the
just
kids
tuck
were
it
little,
up.
I'd get so mad because I'd be like, can't you just get up and play with the kids? And he said, you don't understand, because then they had to rotate. So they would do 2 months of a day shift and then, and I think they just learned to get used to no sleep. All of my kids, they just do.
Sleep.
And now they do 12-hour shifts, which Todd always gets angry about because he said he thinks that's hard on police officers when you do those 12-hour shifts 4 days in a row.
I bet.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess we can keep going now here with the 2021 downtown improvement project.
All right, sounds good. So one of the items that we wanted to be sure that we talked about with council is back in 2009, a Trunk Highway 12 redevelopment plan was put together and actually adopted by the city council at that time. I did attach the plan just in the event that council didn't have a copy of that previously. And one of the things that came out of that plan was that a downtown district was created. And I think it's on, pages 7 through 9 of the plan, discusses some of what that downtown district looks like and includes some recommendations for infrastructure improvements. Since the 2021 Downtown Improvements Project does include that area, we wanted to bring that to council's attention and there's, under the infrastructure portion of my memo, there's a variety of things that we pulled out of that plan that I thought would be good to go through and just determine if there's any interest in incorporating any of those items into the project. Because ultimately, when the street's torn up, that would be the time to do it, rather than trying to retrofit something in later. So those items that were identified were some bump outs with bollards, key intersections, obviously Center and Highway 12. That's if council likes those bump outs that are there, we'll make sure we get them put back in. If you don't and say they're not working, that's the type of design decisions that we can take care of as part of this planning process. Sidewalks, with some, I think the plan said brushed concrete designs or aesthetics. Streetlights, I guess that's a big question. If we want to incorporate any type of streetlights into the downtown portion of the project. Planters and plantings are another item that were discussed. Streetscape elements, trash receptacles, banners, things of that nature. Unless there's some fencing that council feels strongly that should be included in the project, the site fixtures, if you will, are easy to add later. We can simply reserve a space as part of the plan, and those can be, they don't necessarily have to be done or bought or purchased as part of the downtown improvement project when a paving or a utility contractor would need to install them. That could definitely be a standalone item. Street trees were identified. I know every time I bring up street trees, no matter what community I'm in, I get all kinds of opinions about those. And then ornamental fencing was another item that was discussed. So ultimately, we wanted to make sure that number one, council was aware that plan was done in 2009, and then ultimately see if there's any items that council has a strong opinion about as to what may or may not need to be incorporated into the project. And then we can certainly, with your input, we can certainly bring some concepts back for your review and potential incorporation into the project. So with that, I'm going to pause and listen to you guys.
And I like the idea of the street lights with the planters and the little banners. So and it makes it nice too for in the wintertime when you can kind of decorate those with those holiday lights.
Now, Wayne, correct me if I'm wrong, but the meetings that we had just in the last year or so with MnDOT, they've basically told us we can't do anything on Highway 12.
Right, and they were pretty much going to put up new lights too.
Yeah. But like the plantings and that kind of stuff, they
Really didn't.
They pretty much nixed it because they said we'd have to go back so far that we would have to get we'd have to purchase, land from, and some of those businesses don't have the land to give us. So I just wanted to throw that in there, just so you know that.
Yep.
I think you two were at some of those meetings, weren't you?
Yeah, well, we looked at, burying the overhead power lines along 12 too. That was really cost prohibitive, I
Yep,
think.
yeah, that's, well, and I saw that too, that it was when I was reading through everything more detailed last night, that it was, the expense of burying the power lines was, I mean, it was like astronomical.
Yeah.
It's like, just to bury some power lines, okay.
Are there streetlights going down center? I can't visualize that at night.
See, that's what I was thinking of, is not as much 12, but more down here in the downtown area this way of the street lights with the banners and such, especially if we want to highlight this as kind of our downtown type of strip area. That's where I was thinking it. As far as the bump outs, I don't know how people overall feel about those. I mean, I don't ever hear anybody say that they're great. You only ever hear about the complaints about it. So I don't know how most people feel about the bump outs there. I know it can make turning right off of 12 a little difficult sometimes.
I was gonna
would
ask, how is it
imagine-
for plowing? I was gonna ask
I would
that.
imagine it's probably not fun to try to.
The state does the highways, so they're hard to follow.
Well, yeah, all the comments I've heard have been negative toward those bump outs.
I just know that especially when you're trying to turn right off of 12, it makes it pretty tough sometimes to make that turn, because there's no turn lane either. So, I mean, you're turning from the flow of traffic, and then if you get a pedestrian walking across, it's a whole new
Ballgame.
mess of people turning different directions. And
What was their purpose for putting them in? Does anybody know? The bump outs?
it was for pedestrian flow, I was pretty sure.
Yeah, typically, two things we see bump outs for. One is shortening the crossing distance for pedestrians so that they can more easily or more quickly get from a safe spot to another safe spot. And then number two is this aesthetic value. And I'm wondering, I probably could do some digging into that, but I almost believe those are put in as a result of some of the work that was done with this 2009 plan. That would be my guess, because typically those aren't something that just get.
Well, I think part of it too was that because that is a school crossing area as well. So I think that was kind of part of the idea behind all of that, was to help with the crossing of the highway and everything.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're not bad in that aspect. It's just, and maybe they have a plan for putting a turn lane or something like that on the Highway 12 project. I don't remember that specific location, if they do or not, but I just know sometimes it can be tough to turn there, especially when we have like those, they have the food handouts, the food drives here, where they're lining up, I mean, both ways down the street, and they'll be lining up on 12, down here, down to County Road 12. It can make for a bit of a mess over there, so.
Okay.
I mean, if they're looking at putting a turn lane there, I mean, that'll solve most of the problems.
I do know, Wayne, that we have to pay for part of it, but they're gonna improve that pedestrian light for crossing there, right? 12, where those bump outs are? That was the only thing that they really basically were agreeable to.
Yeah, because they didn't.
Turn lane somewhere.
Yeah, because they didn't want to
Down
put.
by Zephyr.
Yeah, I know they didn't want to put like a stoplight there, but
Right.
I know that they talked about possibly changing the color of the lights.
Yep.
So, I guess a lot of it will depend on what the state's plan is for when they come through here in, what, 2022 is it now?
Yeah.
They bumped it back a year.
Yep.
Is it 22 or 23?
22. And who knows if they'll bump it again.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be in favor in taking a look at the cost to put, ornamental lighting down center and second and third, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that well lit if you walk it at nighttime.
Yeah, and since sidewalks are going in, it'd be an ideal thing to put
Yep.
streetlights in there too. I mean, I'm not talking about, you know, Beverly Hills style fancy. I'm talking something that's moderately priced and,
Yeah, just some
Effective.
basic street lights that'll light up your walking area and then, you know, have the areas to hang banners or lights from.
yeah,
I think it would look nice, especially with the improved road and curb and gutter and everything.
and everything's LED now, so the cost to operate is negligible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Anything else that you wanted to know about that?
Any,
Help you?
any other amenities that you feel that should be considered?
I mean, maybe a couple trash cans. I know that like the Lions have done pretty well with getting the benches. So I mean, if we get the sidewalks in, maybe they'll have a couple more benches that they just need to find places to put.
Okay.
So I mean, we could work with the Lions as well of when this all happens, if they have any extra benches that they would like to donate or put up or something. So
Okay, so focus on the ornamental lighting.
Yeah.
yeah, in this
That's it.
downtown kind of area. Yeah.
Yep, second, third, and center.
Where are you talking about, benches and stuff, Kirby? You
Well,
talking
by kind of by the sidewalks. I know that it says on here too, like benches and trash receptacles and banners and such. So, you know, I know they're always looking for places to put benches. I mean, it would have to work with the property owners as well for putting a bench up in somebody's yard. But
Yeah, they probably work better in more of the, you know, like around the community center and stuff like that. I'm not so sure. I don't know.
I was just saying, and
Speak for the residents along there, but I don't think they'd want a trash can and, a park bench in their front yard.
yeah, I was just more referring to all of this area to look at places that we could potentially put that stuff. So.
Yeah.
I mean, city property would obviously be the ideal spot. I wouldn't
Right.
want a trash can in my yard where somebody may or may not make it in the trash can when
Right.
they throw it in there, so.
So do you need a motion on anything, or do you just looking for their direction?
No, I think just the input for direction will work, and then we'll bring back, in the next couple months, some sketches, and then, have a discussion about that and kind of get the nod as to if that's kind of what you guys had in mind, or if we need to do some further revisions, or modifications. So at this point, we'll look at the ornamental lighting. I think I heard moderately priced streetlights in the second, third, and center street area.
Yeah, and I like how you put in there too, the shorter ones.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Okay. Yeah, unless there's anything else, I appreciate the input, and we'll put a concept together.
anything else for Jared?
Don't think so.
All right, moving on to the conditional use permit approval.
Jared, just so you know, I'll get you these resolutions once they're signed, okay?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, thank
For
you.
345 Garfield Avenue South.
So the planning, this was brought before the Planning and Zoning Commission at their January 13th meeting. There was a public hearing, and the public hearing went very well. The only comment that someone made was a property owner near to them was in favor of doing it. We didn't get any other comments, positive or negative, about it. And so the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to recommend that the City Council approve the project. And the property owners would like to get going on it, so they asked, well, actually, Ms. Councilmember Solares and Councilmember Marzlik were at that Planning and Zoning meeting, and they recommended we put this on tonight so that it gets approved and they can get going.
Yeah, because if anybody has done, an application to the city correctly, it's been the Isaacs. They've done a fantastic job all the way from start to finish, so.
Some pizza to go. And the resolution before you was prepared by the city planner, approving the conditional use permit. And if you looked at all of the information, they obviously have a larger lot, acre lot, so they have the room for it.
They did update the
Yep.
setback on the plan.
Yep, and then they were given the condition that the building inspector, our building inspector has to check that and make sure that those setbacks are correct. So if you have any other questions, I can try to answer them. Otherwise, we just need a motion for the resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 21-08, approving a conditional use permit for building at 345 Garfield.
I will second.
Okay,
Any
who's
further
second?
discussion regarding the conditional use permit approval? Sam?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion passes 4-0. Garbage and recycling contract renewal.
The city's garbage and recycling contract with Randy Sanitation expires in May, and they have contacted us to talk about renewing that. And some of the things that I've talked to with staff is right now, we bill the garbage through utility billing, and it takes up a ton of time for staff. Basically, they're the go-between between Randy's every time someone has an issue. And we want to eliminate that. We want to just have them bill the residents. And I can tell you that a lot of cities that I work in, they went to that kind of a system where they just do it. And when I talked to the representative from Randy's, she said it is a good move for the city because then there's not that go-between with customer service. She did indicate that the cost of the garbage cans, no matter what size you have, would maybe go up a little bit to compensate for that billing. But when I talked to staff about that, we had already done that at City Hall. We had already put that price up a little bit on recommendation of our auditors to cover the cost of staff time to take care of everything. So it's not going to be any surprise to the customers. Well, when we talked about this at the Personnel Committee meeting, Councilmember Marslick and Mayor Moyna recommended that maybe we want to go out for RFPs for garbage, which we can do that. But I need to know that tonight so that we can get that process rolling. Because there are other carriers, there's Waste Management.
I was going to ask that. What about Waste Management? Is the price, like, do we know, is there a price difference? Which cheaper?
All I know of is when they switched to Randy's a few years ago, the prices were fairly similar, if I remember correctly, but it was proximity, was it not, when they switched? Was one of the bigger factors? I don't know, you were around then too.
Yeah,
I think it was proximity was one of the bigger factors that they had.
right.
But, you know, I mean, Howard Lake, there's a garbage company out there as well that could possibly put a bid in.
And then Waste Management has a hub in Winstead. So it's up to you what you want to do. Otherwise, we'll just negotiate this contract. And then we also have to, Mr. McCormick wants to make sure that we have some of the same things, like we have our cleanup day, and make sure that any company that would do
They've got all the equipment.
that would do it would be willing to do the same kind of cleanup day, because that's a huge success here. And I don't see why not, because I know like in Winstead, Waste Management did it.
Waste Management did it here.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, I would like to see some bids from other companies as
Okay.
well, just to see what they offer. And, you know, if even, you know, if the price can stay the same or better services or whatever. So, I mean, that's what I'd like to see. I don't know what everyone else's opinion is, but
No, I'm
Yeah,
with you on that.
I haven't personally heard any complaints about Randy's. However, I think we owe it to the residents of the city to see what kind of pricing we can get.
Agreed.
okay, so we'll need a motion. I do want to let you know that we have had some problems with Randy's, a lot of problems. Poor Jess, I finally had to get on the phone for her, not cooperative at all and not helpful at all, and actually kind of jerky about it every time something happened. And we can't do anything about it. I mean, you have to fix that with your drivers. And so that's one of the reasons why we started to toss this around, because it was just getting to the point where it was absolutely getting ridiculous because they just would not cooperate with us.
Does anybody know whether when they do Montrose, is it the same driver that does the whole city? Or they have?
There's generally an assigned area that drivers have. Sometimes that switches, I only know this because I actually have a friend who drives for Randy's on a
I mean,
different.
I know they have recycle and garbage, but
Yeah, they have
I don't-
certain routes that they have, so unless somebody calls in sick or, sometimes depending on where a route opens up, then somebody will go, well, I'll take that one for the day, and then someone else takes theirs, and it just kind of a chain effect that it has from my understanding at least, so. But as far as I know, there's a set driver that does the area.
have you heard any complaints out in our neck of the woods?
No, I haven't, and
I've had a couple.
I kind of
have?
noticed that it seems to be the same guy driving by.
And honestly, I don't know if it's the same. I mean, I've had a couple issues at my house personally, my neighbor's house, a couple other people on our street. So I can only, say from our experience, but she's completely correct. Every time we've had to call them with, the driver smashed our garbage can down and broke it, or whatever, or it didn't dump. And then they're like, it did dump. And I'm like, you get that right here. It's full of garbage, and you're not really cooperative when you call. That is the downside.
And they were sold recently
Now
too,
they were
so they're
purchased
gonna
by
be under new
Republic,
management.
a larger garbage company.
Yeah,
so.
they're like the second or third largest garbage company in the United States, purchased Randy's, so they will be under new management soon, as far as I know.
So I think maybe we need two motions, because you need to decide if you want to allow us to discontinue billing through utility billing. Well, you can make it all in one motion if you want, and then to go out for RFPs, if you're okay with both, if you're agreeable to both of those.
Could we keep it with billing through utilities until we go over the RFPs, and then we can kind of revisit at that point? If we have a lot
we have to put that in the RFPs if we're gonna do that.
Yep.
So,
Well, I'll make a motion to solicit 2 or 3 bids for garbage contract for the city of Montrose, including the automatic billing from whoever winds up with the contract. And what else do we need in there?
that's
Oh,
it.
the recycle day. Make sure they include the recycle.
The cleanup day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll all be in the RFP.
I will second.
Any further discussion? Nicole?
I
I'll vote yes. Sam?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, so you'll work with me and Jess, just so we make sure we have everything in the RFP okay.
Personnel and Employee Relations Committee.
Okay, the first thing is Council Member Marzalek and Mayor Moyna are on the Personnel Employee Relations Committee, and they did our reviews, Mr. McCormick's and mine, so we just need you to approve. I don't know if you have any comments on anything, but we need approval of those reviews and our increase.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve both reviews and the salary adjustment accordingly.
I'll second it. Any further discussion regarding either review or wage increases? Tom?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Cole?
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, and then it's with a heavy heart that I have before you my resignation. As I explained to some of you, you all know the issues I've faced this year, and I love this job, and we have a great council and we have great staff, but my husband really wants me to retire and he wants to start traveling and doing things, because it just was a bad year, and I'm just not recovering as quickly as we had hoped I would recover. So I'm resigning. I'm going to try not to cry. So that's before you for your approval.
I don't want to approve it.
We don't have a say in that, do we?
I'll make a motion to approve Deb Belter's resignation effective March 31st, 2021.
Second, reluctantly.
Any further discussion? Sam?
Aye.
Nicole?
I,
I'll vote yes. Tom?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, and then I don't know if you want to take this next one.
Yeah, we also discussed administrative restructuring in the city considering Deb's departure. It was discussed to appoint Jessica Bonniwell as the city administrator. We don't have a city administrator at this point in time. We made a run at it last year and decided to table it until this year. Along with that, that would be something that we needed to do right now. Wendy Manson would then go from deputy city clerk to city clerk. She's doing the job now. It's just a title change for her. And we would post a job opening for a deputy city clerk, as well as at some point in time later, administrative assistant to Jessica.
And just so you know and understand, the job that I'm doing is a city administrator job. And you are growing, and in just this past few months, the requests we've gotten for development and businesses, you need a city administrator in place here to handle all of that. The title was city clerk treasurer, but actually Miss Manson is doing that work. That's exactly what she's doing, is the city clerk treasurer work. And it will be a little different because the city administrator will not be in the union. That's typical because they will be in charge of everybody at the city, and then they will be doing union negotiations for both unions when it comes time to do negotiations. And then they would be under a contract. At the time when they talked about making me city administrator, that contract was already written up. We got a copy of it from the attorney that did that, and Ms. Bonniwell is reviewing it right now. So that's all ready to go as well. But your city, I guess what I'm trying to say is your city needs a city administrator. You're growing enough and you're big enough that you should have one.
Why was it tabled last year?
There was some issues with the union.
Yeah, a lot of it was with union discussions of people either being in it or being removed from it, and we decided to just kind of wait. And then now with Deb leaving, it makes sense to have one go-to person kind of at City Hall to go through things. That's my kind of perspective of it. So, I mean, it should be set up, especially with us growing, it should be set up more like a corporation type of, where the city council's the board, and then you have a CEO who looks over everything else. So,
Basically, you would have Wendy and Wayne still in the AFS-CME, and then the deputy city clerk would be 49. So there's not a lot of change from a head count standpoint as far as the unions are concerned. So they will always, try to make things interesting for us. So, but I think we have our ducks in a row here, so I think we can do that
And then
efficiently.
Councilmember Marzalek did do a lengthy interview with Ms. Bonniwell. I can tell you from personal experience that from the day I've started here in May of 2018, she's worked side by side with me. She's very aware of everything I do in my job, has done things for me if I was on vacation or out of the office for some reason. Very smart young lady, very hardworking, great with people, all kinds of people, whether it's consultants or residents or prospective business owners. She's the one that was the first point of contact with Mr. Boyke that's thinking of doing the laundromat and the subway, and she did an excellent job with him. So she would be a great candidate for you and she's very familiar with the city. So then you're not bringing in someone new. It's going to be a lot easier to train someone for her position. It's not going to be easy train, but it would be easier to train someone for her position than it would be for the city administrator position. And she's been coming to all the meetings to keep apprised of what's going on. She's going to, she kindly offered today to help. I have quite a few sets of minutes to do for the next meeting. She's kindly offered to help with some of the minutes. So she's ready to just step up and take it on.
And multiple degrees that would be very useful to that
Yep.
position.
Well, without hesitation, I'll make a motion to appoint Jessica Bonniwell as. the
First,
city-
maybe we should approve all of these job descriptions,
Oh, okay,
okay?
Yep.
And then we can do that.
okay, we'll circle back.
The job descriptions were all before you. You can do them separately if you want, or you can just do them all together, unless you had any questions on any of them. They were made up of several different meetings when we were thinking of doing this last year and the year before. We actually looked at it in 2019 as well. They were made up from that and talking with staff, Miss Manson, Miss Bonniwell,
I think
myself.
they've been fine-tuned a little bit
Yep.
here and there.
And just so you know, Mayor Moyna brought up a good point at the personnel meeting last week. He said, "Are you sure that Miss Manson doesn't want this?" She has made it very clear she does not want the city administrator position. She likes doing the financing, and you guys are blessed. She's
Good at it.
excellent at it.
And who would train for Jess? Like, who would train that person to replace Jess?
Jess would, and that's why I know we're kind of moving fast on this, but I want to, because then in February, I can bring you the job description. It's not going to change from what it is now, but the job description, the posting for the advertisement in the paper, and hopefully get someone in here by the end of February, so Jess can spend the month of March training that person while I still continue to do my job.
Okay.
And that's why we're holding off on moving Wendy until April 1st. So I'm assuming that you've all read the job descriptions, you know what's in each one of them, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve all three job descriptions: city administrator, city clerk, treasurer, and deputy clerk.
I will second.
Any further discussion regarding the job descriptions?
No.
Nicole?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion passes 4-0.
No.
Okay, and now I will make the motion to appoint Jessica Bonniwell as the city of Montrose city administrator.
Pending contract negotiations.
Yeah, we'll do an MOU. Yep.
Yeah, she's going through it right now, and then I told her that she needs to meet with the Personnel and Employees Relation Committee, the four of us, and we'll go through it with her. I can tell you that the attorney that did it, Kelly Dome, I have worked with her in every city I can remember, and she writes, that's what she does, is write these, and she writes them very much the same, all of them, for all city administrators, so it's not going to be a hard contract to negotiate.
I will second.
Any further discussion regarding the city administrator position? Going to Jessica. Tom?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
And I will vote yes. Motion passes 4-0.
Congratulations.
Congrats, Jess.
Good job. Hmm. Do we
She's
have to
already
vote on
been
Wendy?
buying leadership books and reading them. That's how excited she is.
Do we have to vote on Wendy or no? No?
Pardon?
No,
Wendy? No, we're gonna, okay.
yeah, that all will be later on.
Okay.
Letter V, under D, or 5, whatever you want to call it. Cell phone purchase of office administrator, for office administrator.
That's Jess's position right now, and because of the nature of that position, having to do, well, Jess, why don't you comment more on that? Why you would like to have a cell phone? She does have to contact the guys a lot for like meter reads and stuff like that, but if you want to elaborate, please.
Well, in the past year, from working from home as well, it would have been helpful to have a cell phone so I could keep in contact with residents more. I have access to my email and things at home. Otherwise, I have to use my personal cell phone to make phone calls and things for city business. So it would just be helpful to have a city cell phone that I can keep in contact with everybody. So.
Yeah, and Wayne had said at our meeting last week that the purchase of a phone would be very cheap, couple dollars. And adding it to the cell phone plan for the city wouldn't be more than, I would imagine, $30-40 a month. Just like a typical kind of family plan where you just keep adding phones. So
I think it's $40.
And Mr. McCormick, you'll take care of that? Okay.
Took 2 years to get the new ones we just
Yeah.
got though.
So we would just need a motion if
I'll
you're.
make a motion to approve the purchase of a cell phone for the position of office administrators,
I will second.
deputy clerk. Any further discussion on the cell phone purchase? Sam?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion passes 4-0. Discussion regarding city council meeting agenda packets and tablets. So this was on there, a lot of it to do with because we budgeted for this year to have tablets purchased for all of the city council members, if they so choose, right?
Yes.
Me personally, I don't want one. I have a laptop at home. I like the paper copy myself. So I don't want one. But I think is it a group thing or individuals?
I'm sorry, what?
Is it a group decision type of, or is it
No,
individually
I don't think
what
it,
people want?
I think it could be individual. We can order them. We should be able to order them.
Whatever we need. We can get.
I know I wanted to get one. I don't know if Jess will want to continue with that, but I wanted to get one. So you could take it to meetings and stuff because it's a lot easier than taking a great big laptop.
Yep.
So if you want one,
Yeah, just, you have to let Deb know if you would like one, going forward. Like I said, I don't want one personally.
They've all been budgeted for too
Yep.
for this year.
Yep.
So
I want one.
okay.
Yeah, I'll take one too.
Okay.
A lot easier than.
I think I'll just continue to use this as long as it's still working.
Okay. And then we had the agenda packets on there because Councilmember Marslick has chosen not to have it delivered to his house anymore. He just takes it from the website and puts it on there. Just checking to see how many of you would want to continue with that. I get it if you do because we've talked about it. We like the paper
I
copy.
still like to have the paper just
Okay.
too.
I love seeing the guy come and drop it off every day, so I'm fine with that.
I'm sorry, what?
I love
Said he
seeing
likes
him.
seeing them.
I love seeing him every Wednesday.
Okay, so we'll continue.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
So you're just,
They can still stop by my house. I've been to chat with them.
they'll stop by at supper time.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if you don't want a packet, you just have to tell Deb and then you just get it out of your email and it'll be the same.
So what I'm hearing now is you,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Discussion regarding consultant services.
Well, first thing I am going to tell you is that we do have a meeting on Wednesday to have some discussions about our city planner. We don't want to get rid of NAC. They are the premier, they're the premier city planners, and we just have some concerns about our city planner right now, as far as being prepared for meetings and his professionalism and the way he's dressed. So we're meeting with one of the owners of the company on Wednesday to discuss that. So that's on there. And then we have been talking about our city attorney. We just have some concerns about him, and I don't know if you want to elaborate. You used to have Kennedy and Graven here, who is the best of the best when it comes to city attorneys. That's all that they do. And there's a big difference in the services that they provided compared to what you have now. I can tell you that I did talk to the attorney that you used to have here, Mary Tejan. She was wonderful. And basically I don't know if I could say this or not, but they were let go because some former council members got their hands slapped for not doing things legally or the way that they were supposed to be when it came to staff issues. And so I did talk to, Councilmember Marslick has been in touch with Mary Tejan. He had done that in the past too, just to talk to her about whether or not that they would ever consider coming back here. I think you should really consider maybe making that change. It's completely up to you. But I can just give you some things that she told me today. She has over 20 years of experience serving as a city attorney. Their whole office is full of people that work in cities all over the state of Minnesota. Kennedy and Graven does a lot of the training for the League of Minnesota Cities, as well as our Minnesota Clerks and Finance Officers Association. She'd already took, after she left here, she took the city attorney for Osseo, and they have their meetings the second and fourth Monday of every month. But she said what she would do is she would always have one or two colleagues that she would work with side by side when it comes to the city of Montrose issues. Because I told her she doesn't have to be at every meeting. We don't need to pay them to be at every meeting. There's a lot of things that if I had any questions on it, I would just contact the attorney before the meeting and say, I would just go through everything and make sure I had enough information. Or I don't know if you remember, I used to have them write a memo giving their opinion, and that would be presented at the meeting. So she would work side by side with one or two colleagues, and if we needed someone at the meeting, one of them would come. But she said if we really needed her, if it was an issue that we really needed her, she would just have them go to Osseo, and she would come here. So that's available. One of the things she told me today is we have a separate bond counsel when we bond, and they actually do that in their office. They have people that do that. They're very similar. I wrote down to here, it's very similar to Bolton and Mink. They have experts in everything you could ever imagine that you would need a city attorney for, in every field. So,
Do we know what the price difference is comparatively?
I don't know that, but I would say that it's probably not very far off. It's something I didn't ask her today, but boy, I'd be surprised if they were, because they have to stay competitive.
Sometimes you get what you pay for too.
Yeah.
True.
They have vast experience in union negotiations, and I know that. I know Mary does. She did a lot of theirs. The current one that we have, very frustrating to work with him.
Severely lacking. Yeah, I was involved with the AFSCME the first time, and then with the 49 here last year, and I was extremely disappointed in the lack of effort that went into negotiating that contract.
Councilmember Marslick brought more information to that meeting than the attorney did, the city attorney did. And they went with the majority of his ideas. So.
We hire Tom to be the mayor, the lawyer.
No, I don't.
So if that gives you any idea. And then what she talked about today is in the past, when they worked for the city, they had a retainer. Right now we do hourly billing. And that means she said that basically means you pay for what services you're getting. And I asked her, I said, is one better than the other? And she said no. She said it's up to each city how they want to do it. But when you have the retainer, she said it works well for budgeting purposes. And I get that. It's because you know that you're going to have $2,500 a month. That's the number she threw out. So I don't know if that's what it is. And she said that covers day-to-day normal items, such things as drafting resolutions and ordinances, meetings, coming to meetings, like purchase agreements and things like that. But then she said that items that would be paid outside of the retainer would be litigation, or if you have a big development agreement coming up that takes more time, or like she said, bigger jobs. So I don't know. I'm just going to give you that information. I don't know if you want to interject anything, but Council Member Marslick and Mayor Moyne asked me to put this on the agenda to talk about it.
Do you know where we're at right now in terms of our monthly cost with
I don't have
Campbell
a clue.
Goodson?
I'm sorry. I should have looked that up, and I'm sorry.
It's all right. Just curious.
And when was the switch made from them to who we have now?
And that was before I was
Do you
here.
know when that was? I was here in May of 2018, and it was before that.
Who were the last ones we had?
It was Kennedy and Graven,
They were the last ones?
and then they went to Campbell.
No. So So that would have been,
I think it was when they fired,
Barb,
yeah.
they switched right there.
So was that 2016?
I mean,
Somewhere
if
around
we're
there.
gonna pay consultants, there's negligible difference between consultants, with the exception of quality. Um, I would rather pay a few nickels more and have somebody who is here and not shaking and is able to contribute and be prepared for council meetings. Same with union negotiations. I don't feel we've been getting a bang for our buck right now.
So, I mean, we can, our two options are, we could either go out for, well, I guess we have three. We could stay where the course where we're at, who we have. We could go out for, RFPs, or we can, have a motion and a vote on taking in, Kennedy and Cravens.
Mm-hmm.
Like Deb said, they do a lot of trainings for the League of Minnesota Cities, so, that's kind of the three options we are looking at this point.
Well, I would like to make a motion to just go ahead and, switch our legal affairs to Kennedy and Graven.
I just had another question. So the reason they got rid of in the first place was because of everything that happened?
We're not sure. I mean, none of us were around
Right.
when that happened.
Okay.
That's basically what happened.
Wayne and Wendy are the only city staff even that were around when it
And
happened.
they have shared with us that they got their hands slapped because they were doing things illegally when they were in the process of trying to get rid of employees.
Gotcha.
And then immediately they were dismissed.
The council members, not the attorneys.
The
Right.
attorneys.
The attorneys were
That's when they
dismissed.
switched attorneys.
Okay, good.
And same thing with NAC, our planners. I was fortunate enough to get them to come back to the city of Montrose, but they were, well, you know, the same thing happened with Bolton and Mink. They were treated so poorly that they said they would not come back. But I worked with Alan Brixius, one of the owners in Delano, for many years, and he said, and I'm not patting myself on the shoulder, he said, I will come back for you. But the planner they had, Bob Kermis, refused to come back here because he got beat up so bad. And so,
I'll second that motion. Further discussion regarding switching of attorneys.
Fair enough. No, I mean, if this is
There's just
they're the
been,
go-tos, I mean,
yeah, they
there's just
are.
no-
They're top notch. Like they said, they had issues with the union negotiations. You know, there's been times where we ask a question during a council meeting and we can't necessarily get a straight answer right away. Just some of those little frustrations, of just not being ready for what you need to do.
right, and I think, I mean, all of us have the same goal here, is to kind of put all that stuff behind us and move this forward, so.
that's the big thing. You want to
Right.
move forward.
Yep, exactly, so.
Yep. And they're very versed. That was the other thing she told Jess and I today. Very versed with development and, getting ready for that, so.
Any further discussion? Nicole?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion passes 4-0 to switch
When did you
attorneys.
want to make that effective?
I don't know, what do you think, Kirby?
It's pretty close to do it in February. I would say March probably would be a good time frame to get everything switched over.
I think she said today they could do February 1st if you want to.
I mean, if we can do by the February 8th meeting, I mean, February 8th,
Yeah,
right?
and she said that she would be available if you wanted her to, because
The
there
9th.
would be a fifth Monday in February. She would be available to come and meet you. So maybe you do want to do March 1st. You want to do March 1st?
Yeah, I like March. Then we can
And then you
meet her
can
and
meet
talk
her?
to her and.
Okay. Okay.
Is there any other timeline for the other attorneys that we have, to give them some time, I guess, to
Yep.
let them?
And I can let them know tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
On to other business. Patty? We have a resident that has you could use the podium right up here.
Let's give her,
And then, yeah. You just have to state your name and address.
You have to talk
She
into
brought me a couple of concerns that she had that she wanted to discuss, and I talked to Deb, and we decided to put it under the other category, just to either give us a heads up, answer any questions that she might have, and if not, then we'll get her the answers later on, so.
Okay, your address?
157 Mindy Lane, Unit 27, Montrose.
Unit 27?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
I am here basically because I moved into the condos 3 years ago, and they have no one watching over them. And there's 4 people who have multiple units and rent them out, and they don't maintain them. There's nothing the board can do, because the only way we can go into a unit is if it's a emergency. If we go in, it's not emergency, we get sued. So there are units I've walked into has had mold on the walls, mold on the windowsills and stuff. There was a gentleman that lived next door to me, well, it's been several tenants lived next door to me that went without a refrigerator that worked, went without their oven that worked, and their toilet didn't work. And their owner said, just use the other toilet. Well, that's not right. We have people who, air conditioners went out in the summertime when it's really hot. The second floor units, my unit gets awful hot in the summertime when the sun hits that stucco on my side of the building, but I wouldn't want to be in the upstairs ones. And we had 4 people told last year that air conditioning wasn't included in their rent. They had to replace their own air conditioner. So what I want to see, I'm president of the board right now, and I probably will be dead after I do this, but we have 3 realtor agents that own about 5 units each. We have one gentleman who has units all over the state, and he's known as a slumlord who does absolutely nothing. The unit above me he owns. When I first moved in, the door was leaking, and my ceiling fell down. His answer was, it's not my fault, the renter has to pay for it. Well, that's not how it works. Thank goodness I knew something about the laws for condos, because I came from a condo down in the cities and I was on the board there. So I went back to the board and step by step showed them that it was their responsibility and they had to charge back to him for it. But the board, gotta watch how I say this, the board had a president for over 10 years that is a realtor agent, and all he cares about is the bottom line. Things that get broken that the association has to fix, he gets relatives to take care of it, so they're not licensed or bonded. They're not done the job. The other day I had to have someone look at a job, and it was in a kitchen in one of our party rooms, and ceiling needed replaced in a part. And he goes, you do realize that this isn't code. They've put regular sheetrock up here instead of fire-rated sheetrock. So it's that kind of stuff going on all the time with the overall. Now, since I took over in July, I've made sure everything's done per the way it's supposed to be done. But every time I do get into something new, there's always another problem that it was because they took the cheap way out or they didn't want to deal with it, sort of thing. But the big thing is I have renters come to me, what can I do? What can I do? There's nothing I can do for them.
What are you looking for the city to help with?
You have an ordinance 2017-5 that was passed that all rental units in Montrose are supposed to be inspected and registered, and that's not happening. I was told it was because you didn't have the money to pay an inspector. Well, excuse me, if you're renting a place, you pay so much to have it registered, there's fines set up, I don't care how you do it, but you need to get a way that you can get these people under control. Because I've talked to other people who rent houses here and have the same type of problems because they're not taken care of. So a big part of the population over where I'm at either have old people like me or older, and then you have young families. Well, the young families, 1, don't have the money to deal with this. 2, don't have the brain to know what to do when they have a problem. If you go online and look, it tells you you can, excuse me, you can file, hang on a second. I have asthma, these masks don't like me. But anyway, they, is it all right if I leave this off for a minute?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay, they don't know what to do. I have them come to me and said, my air conditioner's not working, they told me I had to fix my own. Well, as a board director, I have no, because they're the owner, and the only reason I'm not allowed to go in the unit is if it's an emergency.
Do you know that ordinance?
I
off the
do
top
not
of-
know that ordinance. Yes, do you, I thought that they just had to register them.
Isn't there a Wright County Housing Authority that has jurisdiction over these kinds of things?
No, the state law says it's the state, the county, and then the city.
The state, have you
So it
contacted
starts
it?
with the city if the city has a law, which we do.
Oh, I see, okay, so they tell you to work your way up.
Yep. And if the thing is, if someone doesn't fix something, what they're supposed to do is notify the inspector, so the inspector can come look at what's not getting fixed. I mean, they'll say, oh yeah, I'm gonna fix it, but give me 2 or 3 months. A toilet not working, it's not 2 or 3 months, it doesn't work, I'm sorry. Then we have one that he doesn't, well, one above me, doesn't pay for anything, damage done to the units below him, and he lets things leak.
So is this one specific owner that owns multiple?
There's one.
There's
two,
multiple.
There's multiple.
different-
And they're all like that? Or it's just, okay, there's,
There's one that's not, he's a police officer, so.
Could, I mean, I hate to interrupt, but I mean, just with us not really having knowledge of this ordinance,
Okay.
would it be okay if we kind of look into this and then talk about it? I mean, I'll talk about it with staff as well, and then,
It doesn't require inspections. They just have to register, and then it says they will be issued a certificate of registration, and that's it.
It also,
I remember when I first started, I was kind of surprised by that, because in Winstead, we passed the same ordinance, and they did do inspections of the properties.
well, you need to do inspections. This is a really good start, but you need to figure out some way to, if they don't take care of things, to find them, so they don't continue to do it. The only way you're gonna get to these guys is if you make them spend money, because that's the one thing they don't want to do.
And I can tell you, in Winstead, that Rob did inspect these properties, and it was years and years of going back and forth because people didn't have the money to fix them up. So I don't know how much the city wants to get involved in something. I think that's why, I think Rob was here when they did this, and I think that's why they did it this way. Took out the inspection piece, because they had a lot of problems in other communities.
No, I'll tell you, the ones that own over at our place, they don't have the money. They just won't spend the money. One guy has over 100 units throughout the state. And the other ones all have at least 5 units each.
in the condos themselves, like as, they don't do annual inspections?
Did you want to look at
We
it?
can't.
Or there's no
We
authorization to
can't
do
with the
inspection?
law with condos.
Okay.
It's different than an apartment.
So I don't
So
know.
it's the only
how
way
much you
a
guys wanna
board
get
is allowed to go
involved
in is
this.
if there's an emergency, like water leaking or a fire or something like that. Then we can go into a unit.
so based off of what our ordinance says, what would be their next step that they would have to do as a board? Would it be the county board meeting and to talk to the county?
I have no idea. I don't know. I've never dealt with anything like this. So
I'm sorry, I've just been here 3 years, and when they made me president and I started to have to talk to all these people who are going through all this, I said, well, let me see what I can do. And I knew the rule was on, or the ordinance was on the books, but it's never been, anything's been done with it, so.
Well, if you decide you want to amend your ordinance where you're doing inspections, you can do that if you want.
I think that's something we could potentially look at. I know that one thing I can do too is I can contact a couple of the county commissioners that I know and see if they have any idea of what direction to kind of take this.
The big thing is, the only thing they can do, and this is what I suggest they do, is they have to go to the courthouse and file to escrow their rent.
Well, if it's
fixed, but
a,
that still doesn't get it fixed.
yeah, well, and if it's a health thing too with mold and stuff like that and a danger with leaking and
Yeah,
stuff.
cleaning, you go walk into an apartment,
I know Wright County can step in at that point if there's a health issue, because I know Wright County Health has had to come in for other areas in town when issues have been going on. So, I guess that,
County Human and Health Services, is that what you were saying?
yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering that too.
I would think that would probably be the next step, is to try to contact the Health and Human Services. And like I said, I can contact a couple of county commissioners that I know from Wright County and see if they kind of have any direction to go forward with. And then I can pass your number on to them if they have any more questions for you as well, if that's okay.
no problem. I also wanted to make the point that when your units are the way they are over there, I own my unit, so I own it outright, and it's nice. It's not like the rest of them, but there's about 9 people who live in their units they own over there, and those are all pretty nice units. But the kind of people you get in, if the person is a good renter and they come in, and what happens is they give them a list of stuff when they move in that's not working right, and then they don't fix it. So 2 months later, they're gone. We have people dealing drugs over there that I can't say, oh, he's dealing drugs, but I know he's dealing drugs. And there's all kinds. Today, someone from one of the units got picked up and arrested for the 2nd or 3rd time. So it's little Harlem over there is how I look at it, because you have a few really good people, and then the rest of the people are not so hot.
Yeah, I think a good step would be, especially if the board could send a letter to the.
Well, see, that's my problem, because the realtors have kept, I'm the first person that's been a president other than one of the realtors and he owns 6 units for over 10 years. And the only reason I got it is because I know the laws, and some people noticed that I knew what was going on. But I'm sure my term ends, because I had to split it because I was a tie. So my term ends next January. So I know it's not going to stay in I'll be surprised if it stays in my name, because they've had to spend money since I've been president.
Yeah, I would say Health and Human Services is a good next step to talk to, especially with the health concerns that you brought up. And then, like I said, I'll reach out to the county commissioners and see if there's anything, so.
Okay. I just, because it was on the books, I had to start someplace. So I looked online, and it said you start with your city if there's an ordinance in place. So.
Thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you.
Sorry to see you go.
One other thing we had under other was to discuss the vacant council seat. So we got 8 applications from people around town. And so, we've got several different options that we could kind of go about with doing this. And I've talked to each of you individually. We could have all 8 come in for an interview, even with only asking a few questions to each. Could take a couple of hours, which it's just time. Or we could individually all look through the applications and then send a list of your 3 or 4 candidates that you think would be a good fit, and to Deb and Jessica and myself, and then we can set up an interview special meeting with the entire council, possibly next Wednesday, if that works for people. And then interview them, discuss it, and maybe not vote on it that night, but at least vote on it the next week at the following meeting. So just kind of curious on what everybody wants to do. If we want to bring all 8 in, if we'd like to take 2-3 days to review all of them, and then, like I said, select 3 or 4. Just kind of seeing what everybody wants to do as a whole.
I like that idea. I mean, I think bringing in all 8, that's a lot. That's really time consuming. But I mean, I got a very small glimpse at the applications. I haven't even been able to read them yet. So I think that being able to go through them, read them, and maybe shooting an email of saying, hey, I kind of like these ones. I would really like to interview these ones. So like in saying that, if I send that list to Deb and Jess, is it automatic that those ones get interviewed, or no, we're picking like which, like?
Yeah, I mean, well, it'll be a collective of,
Okay.
you know,
Everybody
everybody
picks.
sends
Okay.
theirs in. If everybody has the same 3 or 4, then we do, you know, those 4, or, you know, if we have a tie or something like that, then, you know, we could include 5. You know, it's just kind of like a regular interview process for a job. If, you know, you get 100 applications,
Sure.
you more than likely not going to interview 100 people for the position. You're going to take them aside and look at which ones. So, I mean, this was a lot of applications. I didn't expect that we were going to get
I didn't either.
8 applications. I don't know if they've had that many in the past for the open seats. We had 4 the last time, and there was only 3 or 4 the time before that, I believe. So,
I mean, that's good. I mean, that's
Yeah.
good.
I
mean,
think,
I like
I
that.
think to do yourself a just service before you even dig into the applications, you already have to have in your mind what criteria you're gonna evaluate those things by. Because just reading them doesn't really get you anywhere. You have to jot down a couple of points that they have to meet, and then apply the applications against your criteria, and you'll be able to weed them out pretty quick.
Yeah, I was able to kind of whittle down my list after looking at the applications, so, yeah, I feel comfortable coming up with a list of 3 or 4 and emailing them. Go from there.
so then we'd want to send a list of 3 or 4 to Deb, Jessica, and myself, and then we'll have a special council meeting and interview next Wednesday, is that the 3rd? The 3rd?
Yes, it's a 3rd.
So
Well,
sometime with the next day or 2, right?
Yeah, I mean, take a couple days to look at them, 2, 3. I mean, I'd say by
Friday.
Friday?
Yeah, Thursday night, Friday, to just kind of let us know so we can get them all contacted and get them in. What time would work best next Wednesday? I'd like to accommodate all their schedules too. I mean, just to give them a little heads up.
Yeah, actually, Wednesday would probably be better, right? Since today's Monday. I
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
thinking it's
it's
Wednesday.
yeah.
Or did I just
So
stick that?
list in by Wednesday,
I would think so.
and then
By this Wednesday?
Close the business Wednesday?
Yeah, I could do that. I could.
Okay, what
get you a
time
list
do you
by
want
then.
to do the special city council meeting?
We could do, I don't know, 5, 6. How late do we want to keep staff?
Oh, you want to do it later?
I would try to do it a little later in the day, just, I mean, especially if we're giving them, you know, 5 days notice to kind of see if they can
I
get there.
suppose
So
with work and stuff.
work
So-
around schedules.
5 o'clock?
5.
5 o'clock next Wednesday? I'll make a motion to have a special city council meeting at 5 o'clock on February 3rd.
I will second.
Further discussion on a special city council meeting?
The other thing I think that you have to decide, well, finish your motion. It doesn't have to be in the motion.
Cole?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Sam?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
How do you want to do it? Now, when you did it, when we interviewed you, you all sat together, all 4 candidates.
Can we spread them out?
Yeah, so I was kind of thinking, I mean, this setup isn't bad, but either we could set it up like this, or they could be spread out in the audience, and then one at a time could come up to the podium. I don't know how that would work with mics and stuff. What would be the most advantageous for
Well,
keeping distance?
you could do like you did when we interviewed, when Nicole was here. You could have them spread out here, if you do 4, and have a microphone. And then they just took turns answering the questions, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing about that is that whoever has to answer the question first, the other 3 people go, yeah, what he said.
Yeah,
you
they
know.
did do a lot of that.
So I think we'd be better served, and they would be better served to have a audience with
time?
just the 4 of us, one at a time.
Okay, so then you are going to start at 5. So how long do you want each appointment to be? Well, maybe then if I were you, I would start then at 4, because you've got some people on there that are retired.
Okay.
You could even probably start at 3:30, because you have people that are retired. And then what, half-hour time slot for each one?
That's what I would think, half an hour.
Starting at 4 o'clock, half hour each. So I guess we gotta Do a new motion now.
New motion to the old motion?
I'll make a motion to change the special city council meeting on Wednesday, February 3rd to 4 o'clock.
Second.
Tom?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Nicole?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Yeah, I mean, I think a half an hour, is good, and then, you know, based on our list, we can kind of, between you and Jess and myself, we can get them all nailed down on the time slots that would work best for
For them.
And you need a little buffer in between, so the next person doesn't come in and sit there and
Yep.
listen.
Well, and I mean, they may not take a full half an hour each too, so.
True.
Right.
Well, and what you typically do, so your first one's at 4, I would make the next one at 4:45, because then at 4:30, if you guys want to discuss anything after they leave, then you can discuss and then.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
15-minute buffer would be.
Yep.
Now, you've been saying 3 or 4, so who's going to make the final determination if you're doing 3 or 4? You?
I think it'd be our mayor.
Okay.
I would say, you see how many, like, if I come up with 4, Sam comes up with 4, and Tom comes up with 4, but Kirby only comes up with 3, you know what I mean? Like, then I'd probably say 4.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it'll depend too. I mean, if you have 3 people that all have 4 votes, and then you've got the rest of them all just have 1, I mean,
Maybe you should say you come up with 4 and we interview 3. How does that sound?
I'm all for that. That's kind of, I said, I was leaning toward 3 to begin with, so I'll go with whatever you guys decide.
No, whatever, I'm just throwing that out there, whatever you guys decide, but,
let's just take 4 names, and then we'll go from there. Do 4 names, and then we'll interview 4 people.
okay.
Sounds good.
Any other questions regarding that?
Yeah, and if you could get those to me
Sooner rather
and
than
make
later.
it by noon on Wednesday, because it's gonna take Jess and I some time to be calling people and scheduling and. Okay,
You'll have mine tomorrow morning.
okay.
Yeah, I'll aim to have by tomorrow.
Any other business?
Nope.
Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Tom,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Nicole?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. We're adjourned.